stronger. Today's service is brought to you by the UUCH board. And we are, like you, an open-minded, open-hearted spiritual community for curious and compassionate seekers. As UUs, we recognize that the truths of the universe are too complex to be summed up in any one religious tradition's dogma. So instead of focusing on creeds and beliefs here, we focus on cultivating relationships, community, and responsible action in this life. And we draw meaning and wisdom from many sources too. The healing power of nature, the fierce call of justice work, the enlightening discoveries of science, the ancient teachings of interdependence and unity, and awe for the great mystery. If you are new here, we welcome you. If we haven't seen you for a while, welcome back. Welcome to all the people on Zoom. And welcome to a new programming year for Halifax Unitarians. If you would like to be on our email distribution list, please leave your name and email address in the book in the ballroom. If you're on Zoom, you could, and you're not already on our list, just send an email to president@uuch.ca. There will be coffee and tea after the service, and we look forward to getting to know each other more and to welcome everyone new or feeling new. And Mary Frances is going to do our land acknowledgement. Well, you can come here if you want, but I know you don't need the step stool.
What? Spread my legs. Okay. Sorry. All right. As we prepare to enter into a sacred space, we must first acknowledge the truths of this land. We are gathered here this morning in Chibuktuk in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, subject to the peace and friendship treaties of the 18th century. Personally, I've been thinking a lot about change as I obviously head into a new family life chapter, but I think we can all relate to this idea of change. So the changing of the seasons that's coming up soon, or the change within our congregation as we move into the new programming year without a minister. When putting together this land acknowledgement, I was thinking about how Indigenous peoples traditionally approached the changing seasons. This would have been done through observation of the landscape, attunement to the cycles of plants and animals, and preparing for change by gathering resources that the community would need in order to thrive. I think there's lots to be gained from this perspective, and so as we acknowledge the land of the Mi'kmaq on which we gather, let's also acknowledge the wisdom that has come before us in approaching change in a more connected way, one that is attuned to the gifts of nature and the needs of our community and ourselves. So with that, let's sing our opening song together, and the words are on the back of your order of service.
We stand if you want, sit, dance, laugh, cry. And it would help if I'm in the right key. There we go. 2, 3, we are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. Again, we are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. Oh, it feels good to sing with you all again.
We've tried placing our announcements at different places in the service, and we think that putting it, or I think, and other people agree, maybe you don't, that putting the announcements at the beginning of the service means that you're still awake and you hear them. The biggest announcement that we have today is that Troy Saunier has decided to step back from the board. Troy has served for many years as vice president, president, and most recently, past president. And we thank him most heartily for all of his work he's done for our community. We are also very grateful to announce that our most immediate past president, Kim Turner, has agreed to come back on the board in this position. So thanks, Kim. She may be on Zoom, or she may be, oh, hi, Kim. Our past president, Margaret Galbraith, expressed joy at returning to the board for a short time, but then realized that she couldn't, as she is a member of the endowment committee, which operates completely separate from the board. Margaret, though, as past president, had already committed to participate in today's service. And by the time she figured out she couldn't, I was just like, it was enough that Kim was coming back. I wasn't going to say, oh, by the way, Kim, you need to drive into the city and you need to participate in the service. So Margaret is doing it. So, you know, since it's great fun to be around our board, because neither one of those people hesitated for 3 seconds when I asked them, did you know that all members are welcome to come to board meetings? They can join in the conversation, they can eat the snacks, they just can't vote. Our next board meeting is this Wednesday at 6:30. And if you are interested, let me know you're coming so that we have enough snacks.
There's always enough snacks.
I know, but I was trying to find a nice way to say I'd kind of like to know. They could just show up, but it would be nice to know. It's okay. Never mind, Marilyn. You owe me no matter what I do. And Margaret has an announcement that has nothing to do with the board.
I can just give you this instead of.
Oh, yeah, they can see me actually. Yes. Right, yeah, yeah. Well, I could do that. I'm just going to face the group and they can see me, right? The announcement is about the global climate strike next Friday, which will be at noon, 12:30 in the Grand Parade. And we'd really like to see as many people in this community out as possible. This is really it's organized by the School Strike for Youth. So we'd really want people to support our youth and their push and all of our energy to get out there to encourage our governments at all levels to do what as much as they can, as fast as they can, to combat the crisis with the climate that we're all experiencing, even here in our very own province. So we'll find out what the noise is. Oh, it's a table that fell over for the Zoom people. So please come out next Friday, 12:30 at the Grand Parade.
There's a place where people in the service can talk, so I'll get you during that time.
This isn't the time.
Yep.
Oh,
I'll get
sorry,
you.
Linda has a
I'll get
fellowship
you during
announcement.
that time. Okay, I'll make sure you can come up. Thanks.
So a handful of us went on our first Sojourner pop-up last night to the newcomer sing-along choir. And I don't think it was what any of us were expecting, but it was a fun thing. And you may see more of them here someday because they're looking for places to perform. So remember, if you want to participate in this, let me know and I'll put you on the list. What you don't have to be on a list for is the second fellowship activity that starts this coming week, Tuesday, the Tuesday Lunch Bunch. So just show up at noon bring your own lunch, and we'll have conversation, and there'll be a little bit of structure, not a lot, but no agenda. So it's just a time to be together in community. So hope to see you from noon to about 1:30. Here, well, there.
And I'm inviting Mary Frances up again. And I'll do the physical lighting of it, and you can.
I now invite you to take a few deep breaths. We enter into this time that we call worship, where we turn with intention to the things that are worthy of our attention, and we do this by lighting a chalice. Our chalice lighting words this morning come to us in the gray hymnal, number 418, and I'll read those words. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come and you shall know peace and joy.
So here we are in gathering. I'd never heard this term outside of the beginning of the UU opening of the year service. I mean, it's obvious what the word means, but we welcome everyone back. We have a water ritual, but that's all I knew. So I went down a bit of a lengthy Google rabbit hole where I discovered a very simple dictionary definition. I say simple, not the one I wanted, because I made the unwelcome discovery that the Oxford English Dictionary Online is now completely subscription-based. So, two meanings: a gathering in at harvest and a gathering in of people. So then I Googled the word rather than the definition and found a whole bunch of Christian references, generally connecting the Hebrew Bible to the Christian Bible, Old Testament to New, if you know that language better, and something called the Feast of the Tabernacles. I found one academically written Christian article referring the origins to the wanderings of the Jewish people in Exodus, and one of the rituals and celebrations observed at the turning of the year. Much academic debate followed about the appropriate dates of these things and the forming of the Hebrew calendar and all sorts. But the origins were the key to another Google to discover that this phrase "ingathering" is connected to the celebration of Jewish New Year, the Feast of the Trumpet, which starts this year at sunset on September 15th, and the end of the Holy Days, which is called the Feast of the Tabernacles, which marks the end of the 40 years in the wilderness and begins on September 29th. So the whole ingathering thing seems to make sense for this time of year. In our society, September is seen by many as the real New Year. School starts, we finish our laid-back summer ways and return to whatever the normality is of daily life. And we start a new church programming year. Lest you think I'm getting bogged down in the meaning of words and how those change, I would like to offer that words are important. And one word we would like to reflect upon is the word church. Our official and legal name is the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. In existence in Halifax since 1837, we first appear in legal documents in 1873, which are dated Victoria 36, because Nova Scotia Legislative Assembly documents have a regnant year as well as a calendar year. And it says, enacted by the Governor, Council, and Assembly as follows: an act to incorporate the trustees of the Church of the Redeemer, Halifax. And it lists the names of the original trustees, what we now call the board, which were all men, and states in law that their successors in office are created a body corporate. Did you hear that, guys? We're a body. A few of us were a body corporate. And it refers to the members of the church as pew holders. So there's a word you don't hear anymore. Pew holders, as in you're a member and because you pay a fee and you get a pew, so you have a specific space to sit in the church. And I guess if you come and you're just a guest, you have to stand at the back. I don't know. 7 years later, 1880, or Victoria 43, a more detailed act, an act to incorporate the Church of the Redeemer, as opposed to just the trustees. And this document outlines the original bylaws, and most interestingly, without any huge debate, changes the name pew holders to members. But it includes other names that are odd to our ears. The vestry, which was actually what we called our board until quite recently. We had 2 deacons. We had a superintendent of the Sunday school. At some point, we also dropped deacons, although we now have lay chaplains, which was a project started by the CUC in the 70s. And at some point, we stopped referring to Sunday school, calling it instead religious education or religious exploration. And I don't know when that date was, but I know that my husband's UU childhood in the 60s and 70s, he talked about going to Sunday school. But by the time my children were here, it was referred to as RE, it wasn't Sunday school. But it's funny, Sunday school is a term that I would use explaining what my children did on a Sunday morning, just as I don't think I could ever get away with using the word church to explain where I go on a Sunday morning. And that's a huge conversation for another time, which brings us all the way around back to the word church. We've had many discussions over the past few years. We had a small group do a report a few years ago, which looked at what other UU spaces call themselves, was submitted to the AGM. Last summer, we held a couple of passionate conversations during coffee and conversation. And many UU spaces in Canada call themselves congregations or fellowships. As a collective, we don't seem sold on either of these, which are themselves an older usage. In August this year, the topic came up at the visioning retreat, and there were a lot of people at the retreat. Joe took an informal vote by hands, and the vote was nearly 100% in favor of referring to this community, referring to it, not changing the legal name, just what we call ourselves out and about. To call ourselves and refer to this community as Halifax Unitarians. So we're going to try it on for size. We will welcome people as Halifax Unitarians. We will hopefully, depending on funds, change the sign out front, and our updated website will call ourselves Halifax Unitarians. We aren't inventing the wheel here. The official name of the community who calls itself Vancouver Unitarians is officially the Unitarian Church of Vancouver. The Unitarian Universalist Church in North Hatley, which is really old, it's in Quebec, and it refers to itself as UUSG, Estrie being the French term of their geographic location in the Eastern Townships. So big welcome to Halifax Unitarians. Our opening hymn is 347 in the Graham Book.
Gather the spirit. You can sit or stand. Gather the spirit, harvest the winter to spring, and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Everyone, gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion, and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
I put time of all ages in the order of service because it should be there. This is the year we have to all step up for our children and youth. For the first time in many years, we don't have a director of religious exploration. We've also seen a dwindling of attendance in RE post-COVID. Families and children have so much else tugging on their time, but they should know that when they come here, they are welcome. They are an important and extremely important part of our community. We're trying to get together a group of people that are interested in creating a vibrant program for our children and youth. Please contact me if you are interested in helping. Mary Frances will come up to do the part of our service called Complex Truths, Joys and Sorrows. Just kick it back. Just kick it back. There. No, you just bring it out again.
We bring our hearts into this sacred space of community and we open them up to each other, for each other, so that those of us who carry pain might be comforted by the presence of a loving community, so that those of us who are happy and well might share our joy and see it multiply in others. And so those of us who carry complex truths might find a welcoming space to process and make meaning of all that life brings. This, around the corner, is our communal well and holds all of our stories. It is a place we come to be held and loved. The water reminds us of our connection to each other, to life, and to the earth itself. So if you have a story, a joy, sorrow, or complex truth on your heart that needs to be spoken in community, we invite you to share. And you can drop a stone into our well of community to mark your story and remind you that you are not alone. Pam, I think, has the mic.
Is it working? No.
So feel free to come up.
Does it hate me? Why isn't this one the red button? Yes, I've been pressing the red button.
No, not the red buttons.
Does it like me? Red button. Okay.
All right.
Marilyn? I'm going to hold the mic now that we're back in our normal time.
So when I had the thought of picking the hydrangea at my daughter's, which is overwhelming in its bushiness.
And there's people chatting in the back, which is not nice.
Joseph. Thanks. All right, I'll start again. When I got the idea to pick the hydrangeas and bring them in, I was reminded of Valerie Chapman, who used to bring us fabulous bouquets every Sunday. As I recall, she would get them at a retail place, and a wholesale place, and do a gorgeous bouquet like a florist. And that continued for many, many years. And then for a while, we had the South End florists, who Norm would pick up a free bouquet from them, usually on Saturday mornings, I think, and it would be here. So since you're sort of looking at things from a historical perspective today, I just thought I'd bring that bit of history and the joy of bringing flowers to the altar.
Thanks, Marilyn. Want me to bring it to you, Etta? Or?
Can I speak from here?
Yes, I'm just going to bring you the mic.
Just to segue off of what Marilyn said, I just want to mention that I too thought of Valerie this morning. I really did, as I often do. Consequently, then I think of Colin. What a lovely couple they were. We're glad you're with us. Remembering Valerie.
Taking over mic duties. Mary Lou?
Just to reinforce our community ideals, the last couple of weeks I've been having problems as a result of an accident. And who did I call on for help in that time period? My fellow Unitarians. And it's amazing that we manage to be there for each other always. So put a stone in for community. And then come and collect your microphone. I have a joy to report my sister, who is 5 years younger than I. It doesn't make her very young because I am going to complete my 90th year in November. She is coming to visit me.
Hello everyone, I am Joseph and ID card Abbas Moravej, and I am Iranian person. I came to Canada about 6 months ago. I had many friends and I lost all of them, and Canadian government broken all of my relationship when I want to make relationship with, for example, with woman and man. Some person, government agents, some people who was annoying or harassment for me. And for example, it's not good, kick out or go away when you are in danger, in swimming pool, in another place, in club. In club, one lady catch me and 5 lady help to her, and they are all of together catch me and kick out from the gym club. And I am very sad, and government put me many limitations for me. I hope my problem will be fixed at the soon.
Mary Frances, would you put one in for me, please? They can hear me on here. I would like one in for a joy because I got to go visit my parents for the first time in summer in 7 years. So I had the best time with family and I got over my sickness. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. But yeah, thank you.
I would just like to add, as the head of your refugee team, that everything possible has been done for Joseph, and he has rejected some of the solutions that have been offered him. So please, don't worry.
Is there anyone else that wants to share? Andrea.
Just to end on a positive note, My brother got married last week, and it was the first time in 9 years that all four of my brothers and I have all been in the same city at the same time. So that was just a really lovely weekend, and it was also a nice week recovering from the alcohol I drank in that week.
I'll put in a really big stone for that, I guess. oh, sorry for Andrea. And then I'll just wrap us up with one final stone for all the joys and sorrows and complex truths that remain in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts.
We forgot to ask Riley if there are any on Zoom. No. Oh, okay, thank you. So even though we use the water and stones for our regular thing in complex truths, a water ritual is a traditional part of the ingathering service. UU ministers have as many ways of doing this as there are UU ministers. The worst service I've ever been to in a UU space was an ingathering promoted as being intergenerational and not only offered nothing for children, but the water ceremony involved a lot of very privileged people giving travelogues about their wonderful summers. It went on for 37 minutes. My husband timed it. It also marked the last time my husband, who was brought up Unitarian, came to a regular service. And I spent most of my service time teaching RE for the next few years. Oh yes, and after that one long service wrangling small Hodies aged 5 and 7, we never came to another intergenerational service. In this UU space, we use water every week in our sharing of joys, concerns, and complex truths. It was only our last brief interim minister who brought this well of community to us, and last year's ingathering, but we seem to like it. He also said rather half-jokingly to make your comments 15 words or less. So I'm going further. I'm not a minister. I'm just Pam doing this thing today best I can. I look forward to hearing all about everyone's summer adventures. And there is so much time over fellowship activities and coffee in the next few months to have those lengthy conversations that make us a community. Today, what I would like is for people to come up and drop a stone, one that's here or one they brought, or add their water, if anyone actually remembered, because I sure didn't, to the well of community, and say one word, encapsulating their thoughts of their summer and their journey we embark on collectively today. And Mary Ellen Ono sent me an email yesterday, and she told me that at First Unitarian, they're not allowed to say anything. So I'm going to out First Unitarian as the church where that 37-minute water ceremony took place. But I'm going to trust you all. One word or no word. And we're going to sing continuously while we perform this ritual to bring us in our souls into the concept that it is a ritual. 10:07, there's a river flowing in my soul. Just come up.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river
family.
Leaking roof.
Scott.
Reunion.
Barrel. Hyphenated word.
Do you have a word, Barbara?
Hmm?
Do you have a word? One word.
Not now.
Okay.
In November.
Okay. I'll put this down there. Mary Lou? I love you all. Anybody on Zoom can write their one word to Riley, and I will put a stone in the well of community for you. Zoom people, this is your last chance. Oh, so I've got a latecomer.
My one word is stillness.
Future.
Mary Frances.
The author of this is anonymous, but the sentiment could be written by most of us. We are people who bring together the broken pieces of our histories and the shining pieces of our seeking, and piece by piece create a mosaic religion. But our mosaic making tells another story too, one that is often more difficult to see, one that is essential to the purpose of a religious community, one that lies not in beautiful and broken bits and pieces, but in the grout. Grout happens in board meetings and committee meetings and endless emails and slow-moving institutions. It is in weekly potlucks shared by neighbors, a ride to church, and coffee in the social hall after service. Thank you.
Oh, wait. Our reflective hymn this morning is 112. We traditionally sing this hymn sitting. But as always, you should do what is comfortable to you. 112, and then our reflections.
It's in the gray hymnal. 112. Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land, do
Okay, so we're going to just be doing the reflections really on what we did with the retreat that we did before. So up here, so first of all, thank you for coming to the retreat, because we had lots of people, which was great, because the whole point of the retreat was to just kind of give us a sense of what does the community want and what do we want to be going forward. So these pictures up here, if you were here, sorry, if you were here, then you know what these pictures are, because what we try to do is create this thing that we call the current view and then the revolutionary view. So if you were here, you drew these pictures so you know, but if you weren't here, this is the current view, and what I mean, sorry, I'm going to move around, is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay, I'm showing them.
Okay, so this is the current view, and what the current view was all about was, well, can we draw a picture, a representation of what we feel, I was going to say UUCH, but what I actually mean is Halifax Unitarians means now. So this is kind of all of the pictures that we had from that. We had, I think, 5 groups. We had about 40, 30 people, something like that. And that was the group's output, so to speak, the current view. And what we did is we took all of those current views and then we pulled them down into some words. And you don't have to read all these things now, but these were, you can kind of read these later on when we're doing our reflection hymn. But these were all of the words that we got for what Halifax Unitarians is right now. And then we looked at those pictures here, and what these pictures over here represent is the revolutionary view. And what we mean by a revolutionary view is just a view that we don't even worry about how do we create this. We don't even worry about is there funding or is there resources or anything. It's just what would we really like it to be? And that is our revolutionary view. And once again, I kind of pulled all these things together, or we all pull these things together into this. The revolutionary view kind of fitted into 3 sort of categories. So what can we be going forward? What do we want to do going forward? And who do we have to be in order to do those things? So once again, there's lots of words here. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can come and read it later on if you want to. Because the main thing that I kind of want to say is at the end of that retreat, the board, we all got together and we looked at everything that you've done. We looked at these, we looked at this, and we started to think about what is possible. What could we actually really, honestly, truly do? Riley? And what I did, is we looked at the possibilities and we came up with what I'll call 3 pillars. And the pillars that we came up with reflect everything that you've written, everything that you've drawn, everything that we've written, everything that we've created to come up with these 3 main focus, you might say, or pillars is what I'm calling them, for what we could do moving forward as a community. So as you can see, the first one was grow our community. It's kind of best represented down here in the middle picture, but it's kind of in all of the pictures. But this one here in the middle one, where there's lots and lots and lots and lots of people, we're growing our community. We're creating more of us in this space. The other one is more opportunities to interact, and Linda is doing a brilliant job of that with your, how do you say it? Sojourner pop-ups, which is great. And then we can probably take those and add more to it, perhaps even make them a little easier to access. And our last one is less pressure to align to social issues, so that when we come here, we don't necessarily have to join a committee or something like that around a social issue, but instead we can just enjoy ourselves and our community. Riley, can you put that back up again, please? And from there, what we did is once we understood what the 3 pillars are, then we started to think about, as a board, we started to think, what can we actually practically do? Because that's important too, right? It's one thing to have this, it's one thing to have you guys put all of the effort and time into that, but how does that turn into practical steps? And this, I'm gonna just move it on, Riley, because it doesn't seem to be working. Because this, okay, why don't you stop and I'll just have a go, okay? Here we go. And this is what we came up with. So those are the actions, and they have a strategic intent. So it's not just we're just doing things, we're doing things for a specific reason. So I'm not going to read it to you, but what I will say is that, well, actually, maybe I will read it to you. So the first one is new name, new sign, new website. So Pam just mentioned Halifax Unitarians is what we're going to call ourselves now. So that name and that sign, which Pam and I actually created a makeshift sign of it outside. So if you look at the sign outside, it doesn't say Halifax Unitarians, whatever it said before. It doesn't say that now. It just says Halifax Unitarians. Oh, Universalists. That's what it used to say before. So we've just kind of done a version of it now, and we'll eventually change it later on. But the new sign and the new website, and the whole point, the strategic intent, if you like, behind that, is we're removing the barrier of this word church for lots of people. So the hope would be that if we remove the barrier, then we can grow our community, which is obviously one of our pillars. The second one is the coffee house. So the intent there is that we're providing fellowship, we're deepening our community, and we have new members, because the idea of the coffee house and the Soulful Sundown would be that they're for all people. It's not just for Halifax Unitarians. We'd invite anybody. And the whole idea behind that is that people come in, they see what we're doing, they see what's happening, maybe they like it, and they go, what else do you guys do? And then maybe they might come here as well on a Sunday too. Then we have the Halifax Unitarians meetup group, and this is perhaps where, Linda, we can kind of work together as well, because the idea would be, I'm sure, like, do you guys know Meetup? Have you heard of that before? Some of us? So Meetup is just this platform where you can go ahead and you can just say anything that you're doing in a time and a date and invite anybody who wants to come. And Facebook does much the same thing, I think, right? So the idea would be that we have something like that, something like a Halifax Unitarians meetup or Facebook or both, and we allow people to come to any of the things that we're doing, whether they're part of the community or not. So once again, the strategic intent there would be that we expose new people to what we're doing, and we would get perhaps more people joining the community. And then the last one is social media, so Instagram and X, which used to be Twitter. So if we put more information there about Halifax Unitarians, once again, we could actually let people know the things that we're doing here. So it could be on Meetup, it could be on Facebook, but it could also be on social media. So more people know what's happening and what we're doing, which allows them to come. So you can see all of these ideas, the actions, they're all reinforcing the pillars. So they're all growing community, they're all giving us an opportunity to meet, and they're not necessarily aligned to a social issue. Does that make sense? So in just a second, we would like to hear your thoughts on this. I know I've just said a lot. I've just said a lot, really, and I've shown you a whole bunch of stuff. So what I'd like to do is give you some time to kind of process that and think about that by way of singing a song. So we'll sing, it's 318 in the gray hymnals. So feel free to sing that song, but as you sing that song, if you want to, come up here and look at this. If you want to come up here and take a look at this, perhaps you weren't at the retreat, you just like to see what's going on, have a look. Have a look at the revolutionary view, whichever you like. And just kind of formulate your thoughts, and at the end of the hymn, we'll just have an opportunity for you to voice your thoughts on these ideas. Okay? 318, Jessica.
You can sit or stand, whatever you feel comfortable. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show it all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for the meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice strives to make us free.
I'm just going to use this one because Mary Frances is very kindly going to go around with the mic. But does anybody have any thoughts, comments, proclamations, declarations represented in word, song, or deed?
Hi, Amy Moonshadow. I'm confused about the not wanting social justice part.
Okay, so it's not that. Thank you, Amy. It's not that we don't want social justice. We're just one of the things that came out in the Revolutionary Review is that the pressure to feel that you have to do social justice. So if you want to do, great, and if we want to have more committees on social justice, great, but it's just that it's not a pressure to get involved in those. And some people expressed that they felt that there was a pressure whenever we're doing a fellowship. Does that make sense?
Joe, you've done a lot of work there.
Well, we
I,
have.
for one, would need to sit down and look at this a little more carefully.
Yeah.
And I couldn't capture very well all of the ideas there.
Of course.
But I think if you could put something together that we could get sit and look at, if I can sit for 20 or 30 minutes and think about it, I'm sure I would come up with a lot more than I would off the spot here.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you know what I could do is we could take pictures of these things, because this is, because it's not really about me or the board, right? It's about us all. And this is the best representation of us all, because this is where we got the retreat from. So I could take pictures of that and we can send it out, I'm sure, in some clever way, right? So everybody can get a sense of what was going on.
It would make more sense to type them up. I think that the photographs are losing accessible to people.
Okay, so we'll type them up instead then.
Are you criticizing my handwriting?
Sorry, Kath? Sure. Any more? Got Joseph, and then, I'm sorry, I forget your name. Etta.
I had an article about your case, use social media, and how about this case. The government Halifax blocked my Wi-Fi in my room. I am in apartment 5 500 block at Herinkov.
Okay.
All of my neighbors have Wi-Fi to use internet, but my Wi-Fi is blocked by the
Okay.
government. Why? How can I use social media like Instagram or another things?
I think,
Tell me, please.
These are not personal comments, they're collective comments, reflections on the sermon. So, but if you need assistance in something, you can always talk to someone after if you need personal help in assessing something. Okay? Okay? Yeah, yeah. Well, we have other means of communicating. We have other means of communicating outside of social media. We're trying to figure that out. We have several people that can't access the internet. Thanks, Joseph.
so I think we have Etter and Jimmy.
I just want to say that I think that Mary Frances and Joe, I think you did an excellent job. You really did. No, really. And the thing I like the best is, dropping the word church, because I really believe that's a barrier to a lot of people. Because a lot of people are fed up with the churches, and the way it's laid out there, it's kind of like a tongue twister. The Universalist, Unitarian, Church of Halifax. It takes you a while
It's a
to get your
drinking
tongue
song.
around all this stuff, but the Halifax Unitarians, that's a lot easier to say, and maybe that'll help get more people in here too. But an excellent job.
Thank you, Jimmy. And Etter had something to say?
Well, I was going to say the same sort of thing. I'm impressed that you got through that church word so apparently easily. We've talked about it for years, and I think it's very effective what you managed to pull off with the retreat and the whole thing that you've worked on.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
not just me though, right? So it's the whole board that we're all doing. I think it's kind of a fun board this time, and we're doing quite a lot.
Two things about the word church. First of all, I like the new name, the Halifax Unitarians. I love it. It's great. It's simple. It's much more modern and less unwieldy than what we've had for many years. But that brings us to the question, when we're talking about coming here, we're talking with a friend and we're saying, I'm going to, where do we say we're going?
I think that is
So I do have a suggestion.
Okay,
actually.
go, let's go.
It just came to me today. I don't know why it didn't come to me before, because I've asked this question before. There are some religions or sects who have a word for that, and they call it meeting. I'm going to meeting. Are you going to meeting? I'll pick you up for meeting. And you wouldn't have to say which meeting, because if you're engaged, you know which meeting. Like if we have a Wednesday night Bible study, for example, we're going, we're going to, or an AA meeting. Yeah, we're going to meeting. So if we're having a conversation about going there on Sundays, we're going to meeting. So I'd like to put that word out, and I'd like for people to start using it.
Sure.
So says Etta.
We can explore it, but I think that the important thing for me about what you just said is it could be meeting, or maybe people like meeting, or maybe they don't like meeting. I don't know. I'm not going to decide that now. But the thing that is really cool about what you're saying is, if we are bringing people in, let's say to coffee houses or soulful sundowns and things like that, the important thing about what you're saying to me is that we need to be able to talk about ourselves. So when a brand new person comes in here and they're like, oh, this coffee house is really cool, this is really neat, what else do you guys do? It'd be nice if we had a unified way that we can talk about it, right? So we could say, well, we do this thing on Sundays, we call it meetings, we call it service, we call it whatever we decide that we want to call it. So when no matter who a new person comes in here, is talking to, they're getting the same message.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like a little bit of what do we need to be here, right? What do we need to be? Well, one thing in my view we need to be is unified.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I had two things.
Okay, go number two.
The second thing is that to get all these words and all these ideas out to us, I would offer to provide the service as I do with the newsletter, to put it together and to put it out like the newsletter is put out. It wouldn't be the monthly newsletter. It would be the message, you know, that comes out of the retreat, however you would want to
We're all for it, Etta.
encapsulate that.
All for it. Thank you very much.
You know, I would need some help because I was not at the retreat. I had planned on being there, but I was not able to be there. I would probably need to collaborate with a person or two
Well, I can
to
help you with
put
it.
it in an order of semblance.
That's fine.
You know, a semblance of order, I mean.
I can help you with that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, well,
And
that's
I
great.
think we had one person, and then maybe we should call it a day. Is that
Yes,
right?
I
Tab?
think Irene is next.
Irene, yeah.
And Riley, if there's anyone in Zoom.
Oh yeah, Zoom people.
I don't want to cause dissent, but I do need to be clear on something. So we are not going to do the Saturday morning brunches, I assume?
Yeah, no, they
Or
started
are we?
yesterday. They started
are.
yesterday, Irene, yeah.
Okay. And are we going to continue doing Thanksgiving meals?
We're having that conversation at the board this Wednesday, Irene, about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I hope so. As with everything else, people have to step up and say, I will do this part, I will do that part.
Okay.
But I hope so, because I mean, I don't have anyone to eat Thanksgiving with.
I think I think the theme of what you're saying, Irene, is the same as Amy said, because we're not saying that we're not social justice. We're not saying that at all. That's not at all what we're saying. We're saying what we have plus more. Yeah? Okay?
Yeah, just unmute, please.
Feel free to speak up, Leslie, online.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was on. Thank you. I have two comments, and I'm realizing that there seems to be a need for a continuing conversation about a couple of points. One is how we describe ourselves as a community as we come together. That seems to me that's something that does need more discussion so that we arrive at a common term for how we refer to ourselves. And I must say, I also want to express that I'm somewhat concerned about the mention of the less pressure to align to social issues. Because as a member of the climate crisis team, I'm aware that part of our work is in educating the congregation and around climate issues. And I know we have other committees that want to keep us informed about Indigenous people and racism in our community. We also have a group that's working very hard for refugees. When we're saying we want less pressure on these matters, that I don't know how to interpret that as to where the comfort level is for the congregation. It kind of puts a question mark on all our work there, because it's as if we have to now tiptoe around these important issues. And I'm sorry, but it raises a question as to how do we interpret this, and I'd like some more help with that. Not today. I'd like some clarification of that at some other time.
Leslie, this is Pam, like you probably see me, right? I just like to clarify that, because I know what you mean, that sounds, and Amy brought it up, and the same concern. It's not that we're not going to continue to do the work that we do in social justice. It's not like we're going to continue the focus on the three things that we do right now, which is racial justice, climate crisis, and food security. We're going to continue to do that work. What we want to do, though, is we don't want people, individuals, to feel that they are less than if they do not wish to participate in the activities of those groups. That's not saying that we will not have all of those groups participate in services. The Reconciliation Dismantling Racism team are doing the Treaty Day service, for example. Climate crisis, 24th, we have somebody speaking on the climate crisis issue, and all those things will continue. It's more that we need people to feel connected if they don't wish to march down to the Grand Parade on next Friday, and not feel guilty, and not feel that if we are doing that work, and that is where our passions lie, that we are failing if there's only 7 or 8 people that are interested in doing a certain activity. So I don't want anyone to feel, and social justice is in our covenant, and we are not changing our covenant, and we'll actually hear our covenant later. So yes, Etta, sorry, I don't know where the microphone is.
I just want to say that I was actually surprised to see that suggestion that there should be less pressure on people getting involved in the social issues, because it may have been noticed that I am actually one of those people who does not get involved in any of the social issues. I believe in them, in the movements, but I'm just not that type, and I'm at present not even able to go to the Grand Parade and shout things. But what I really want to say is I have never felt one iota of pressure to join anything or any movement or any rally or any parade or anything. Never. Nobody has ever said, oh, they haven't even said, oh, why don't you join us? Oh, maybe they don't like me, but I have just never known of anybody being pressured.
And that's wonderful, Etta, but it was brought up by more than one person at the retreat.
Really?
That's
Well,
why
I'm just-
it
I'm
became
just
an
very
issue that
surprised.
a thing that we want to address.
I
That's
think,
all.
if I may add, that I think that there's within our group a communal pressure. We've got to do more. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. And I think that's what we're really talking about, is to give ourselves a break as a whole community.
And that's okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But and also to realize that we don't know what each person is doing behind the scenes. Like, you might be donating to Child Haven on a regular basis, or any various social justice issues. I suspect most of the people in this room are giving in some way.
So these are great conversations, but yeah, we kind of, like, we can continue having these conversations at coffee, at fellowship events, when you run to each other in the grocery store. By all means, have an animated conversation about this or anything to do with Halifax Unitarians.
There was one more comment over on this side. One second.
Okay, one more.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie, if we haven't met yet. I just want to say, well, a few things, but first of all, thank you to everybody that contributed, that did this work. I'm quite new. I've been a couple times, and this really indicates to me like an interest in growth and change, and to me that seems like a very Unitarian ideal. So I really appreciate that, and I'm kind of excited to see it. I've only been a couple times. I've been wanting to come for years and really struggled. Part of that was honestly the word church. So this is really attractive to me. And the 3 pillars as well, I think are, they're attractive. So I just wanted to share my perspective as somebody quite new, and look forward to continuing to talk with you all.
Community is made possible by the offering of our individual skills, commitments, and gifts. The truth is that we need each other and money to survive. And yet nobody's worth or dignity is any way measured by the amount of money that they have or they don't have to give. So during the offering, we invite you to offer what you can, if you can, to support this sanctuary of progressive spirituality. As mentioned last week, if you would like to donate to the roof campaign, please put in an envelope and mark roof or comment thus in your e-transfer. E-transfer is easy. treasurer@uuch.ca. Now, I always really dislike when ministers cut music during a service. I really, really, really hate it. So I'm not going to skip our closing hymn because I love it and I chose it for a reason, but we're only going to sing the first verse. I never thought I'd live to hear me say the words. 346, come sing a song with me. Verse 1, you can stand, you can dance, you can roll around on the floor, you do whatever you want. Oh, whatever. I thought you only said it when someone here forgot.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, come and sing a song with me. 346, like she said. I am in the wrong key again. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Can I do it one more time? A dream with you. I have no control of this conversation. Dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. Everyone, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
I feel like saying something pithy about if I were a real minister, they would have listened, but that's not true, so, you know. Margaret has the chalice extinguishing words, and I will blow it out.
Our words as we extinguish the chalice are from the Covenant of Halifax Unitarians. Compassion is the doctrine of our church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and justice its prayer. To grow in understanding through dialogue and freedom, to support each other's dance with life, to engage the earth in peace, to the end that we speak ourselves into community and hear each other into being. Thus do we covenant with each other and with the universe.
And before I sing the closing song, just a reminder that we are still doing a choir. And after the service, if you want to stick around, we'll talk about it and I'll give you some songs and some future stuff, some future information. Okay, we have spent time together. 1, 2, 3. We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together, and these